Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take the materials you share with us, the articles, the research, the notes, and really try to turn them into actionable, insightful knowledge. Today, we are wading into a part of the internet that is, well, it's absolutely enormous. It's fundamentally influential, yet somehow it feels constantly mischaracterized.
Misunderstood.
Misunderstood, exactly, and even forgotten by a lot of mainstream commentary. We are talking, of course, about Reddit. Our mission today is to unpack a very specific diagnosis about this platform, because here we are, late 2025, and it remains a digital giant. And according to the analysis from the materials you've sent us, Reddit is simultaneously the most misunderstood, the most underappreciated, and the most overlooked corner of the internet.
And that's the puzzle, right?
It is. We need to figure out why a platform with such massive scale still operates, sort of in the shadows. I mean, think about the digital landscape right now. It is just dominated by these massive, hyper-polished, visually slick platforms.
Instagram,
TikTok, X. They thrive on that algorithmic spotlight, just giving you this constant dopamine feedback loop, this manufactured perfection. Reddit, in contrast, it just quietly keeps operating outside that manufactured glow.
It does. It can look chaotic from the outside.
It often does, and it sometimes sounds, frankly, anarchic. But the sources we're looking at, they argue vehemently that it's not a relic. They call it a living, breathing knowledge network.
A living knowledge network. I like that.
And potentially the closest thing we have left to the internet's original open promise, which is a huge claim.
It is a huge claim, and that framing is absolutely essential. That's why we need to spend some serious time on this deep dive. Because the common perception of Reddit, it's usually driven by, the loudest, most controversial, or frankly, the worst behaved subreddits that happen to break into the global news cycle.
Right, whatever makes headlines that week.
Exactly. But if you look beneath that surface, the sources are really clear on this. They define the central conflict here. It's the difference between a public square and a shopping mall.
Okay, unpack that for us. Public square versus shopping mall.
Well, when you open most modern platforms, they're designed like glossy brochures or like these highly optimized shopping malls.
Right.
They're curated, they're optimized entirely for commerce, and they reward passive consumption. You're just scrolling until you buy something or you click an ad.
That's the entire business model.
That's the entire model. Reddit, on the other hand, is messy. It's democratic, it can be anarchic, and it's profoundly human. It's the digital public square, or maybe it's like a massive global academic conference where everything, the good, the bad, the insightful, and the infuriating, it all just spills out in the open.
The source material offers this fantastic analogy to capture that exact difference. It says, in an age where most platforms resemble glossy brochures, Reddit remains more like a handwritten notebook passed around a global campfire.
That's perfect. That really gets at the texture of it.
It really does. It captures the texture of the experience perfectly. It rewards genuine participation. You can't just passively scroll forever and expect to get the full value out of it.
No, you have to lean in.
You have to choose to dive in, find your specific interest, and then contribute your expertise or, just your genuine curiosity.
And the structure itself is built to reward that deep engagement. You're encouraged to find your niche and really engage with it thoroughly, not just skim some corporate feed that's been served to you.
So to really grasp Reddit's staying power and its massive influence, especially, and we're going to get into this, in the context of the booming AI ecosystem in late 2025, we have to systematically examine these three dimensions.
Misunderstood, underappreciated, and overlooked.
Exactly. So let's start with the first one, why it's so profoundly misunderstood by the mainstream.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's unpack the central misunderstanding. The confusion, it usually starts when people trying to figure out how Reddit actually works. The core error for newcomers is treating it like X or Facebook.
A single unified social network.
Exactly. But it's not a monolith at all. The sources stress this over and over. It is a federation.
And that term, federation, it's not just precise. It is the key to understanding its longevity. It's an ecosystem of over 100,000 active subreddits. And crucially, each one of those functions as its own miniature, highly specialized universe.
100,000. That number is it's hard to get your head around.
It is. And if you think about, say, Meta, the leadership in California sets the content rules for billions of users globally. One set of rules. On Reddit, every single one of those 100,000 plus subreddits can and does, set its own internal constitution, its own rules, its own culture.
It's like a collection of digital city-states.
That's a great way to put it. Each with its own mayor, its own police force, the moderators, and its own local laws.
The sheer diversity, then, is what makes it so hard to categorize. If it's so reverse, though, why do the headlines always focus on the same chaotic few? What are we missing when we look at the platform through that media lens?
Well, that is the essential insight that's missing from the mainstream critique. Critics just reduce the platform to its lowest common denominator, the memes, the flame wars, the viral meltdowns.
The stuff that's easy to write about.
It's easy to report on, it gets clicks. But they fail to grasp that these are just the loudest corners of the system. In fact, you can find hyper-rigorous, almost academic spaces existing right next to total, unadulterated chaos.
And that spectrum, you really need to go into the details to appreciate it. Look at the range we're dealing with here, just based on the communities cited in the sources. You have the massive hubs for global awareness, places like Your News and Der World News, which aggregate global discussion.
Huge. Millions and millions of people.
But then you dive deep into rigorous, literal sciences in places like Rask Science, our physics, our chemistry. And I want to focus on the rigor here for a second. The sources note that these science communities, they often require that all claims have to be supported by peer-reviewed evidence.
Right, you can't just drop an opinion.
No. And they're highly moderated to maintain these incredibly high intellectual standards. These spaces are operating at a level of intellectual integrity and sourcing that you simply will not find on most other large public internet forums where, opinions just run rampant.
And that scientific rigor, it exists right alongside the documentation of the most obscure and specialized human interests you can imagine. You can jump from a discussion on quantum physics straight into these hyper-niche passions, which truly show the depth of the platform's ability to connect people.
Like what are some examples?
Well, you've got Bonsai for dedicated tree cultivation, people who've been doing this for 40 years.
Okay.
You have Rexel for people who genuinely love spreadsheets and use them at a professional, almost artistic level. And Revintage Audio for collectors who are restoring specific old sound equipment from the 1970s.
And these aren't just casual hobby forums, are they?
Not at all. These are deeply focused cross-global communities where top-tier expertise is shared instantly and then it's peer-reviewed by fellow enthusiasts in real time. Someone posts a schematic for an old amplifier and 10 other experts jump in to correct a resistor value.
That's incredible. And the practical utility that comes out of this organized specificity is just phenomenal. You think about the communities that are centered around collective real-time problem solving. We're talking about Resplain Like I'm 5, which is basically crowdsourced pedagogy. It forces complex ideas to be simplified and made accessible to everyone.
A skill that is incredibly rare and valuable.
It is. Or think about GlobalDAP, where you can get real-time, expert advice on hardware compatibility and how to assemble a custom computer. It's decentralized, free, high-speed tech support for the entire planet, and it's all run by volunteers.
And this brings us back to the other side of the coin, the chaotic creativity. Of course, you have the massive hubs like ForFunny or high-quality GIFs, but then you have the communities that break out of the digital world and have a profound impact on the real one. And none more famous recently than the financial insurrection that was born in our Wall Street bets.
This example, we have to spend some time here because it perfectly illustrates that reductionist trap we talked about.
Yeah.
To the uninitiated, our Wall Street bets might just look like a wild meme forum. It's full of this irreverent language and hyperbolic acronyms like YOLO and Diamond Hands.
It looks like pure chaos.
It does. But that irreverent, chaotic tone was actually key to its success as a disruptive financial force.
How so?
It cultivated a culture where individual retail investors, many of them using pseudonyms, felt comfortable sharing these deep analytical dives, what they call DD, or due diligence, on highly shorted stocks. And this analysis often directly contradicted what established hedge funds were saying.
So the memes were like a cultural glue for a very serious financial project.
Exactly. The platform provided the decentralized organizational structure for millions of individuals to pool their capital and their knowledge. They directly challenged established markets and caused, a seismic shock to Wall Street. That event fundamentally altered how global finance operates.
And it originated not from an established firm in New York, but from a community of pseudonymous users sharing memes and financial analysis from their basements.
That's the power and the weirdness of it. So the mistake critics make then is seeing the headlines, the viral meltdowns, the meme dumps, the chaotic political flame wars, and assuming that's the entire platform.
Right. They see the symptom and think it's the disease.
They fail to grasp that those are just the noisy corners of an ecosystem that also contains 100,000 other miniature worlds of genuine expertise, deep support, and focused learning. It's a massive media blind spot.
And the reason that blind spot persists, it's tied directly to the two core democratic principles that Reddit operates on. And these are principles that are deliberately avoided by modern, centralized platforms that are optimized for monetization and, brand safety.
Okay, what are those two principles?
The first principle is pseudonymity, not curated identity. Users interact through pseudonyms, not names tied to their professional life, their real identity, or their curated social brand.
Contrast that with, say, Instagram or LinkedIn.
Completely different. On those platforms, your profile is your brand. You're performing an identity. On Reddit, this structure creates this radical space for honesty. People feel free to ask truly vulnerable questions, am I the asshole? Or share deeply unpopular truths and professional failures without it being tied to their real name.
But that honesty, that's a double-edged sword, right?
It absolutely is. This honesty inevitably leads to volatility and sometimes real toxicity.
That is the essential trade-off. Modern platforms demand what you could call identity theater. You have to curate a perfect, polished digital self. Reddit essentially says, just be honest about what you know and what you need.
And if you demand that honesty, you will get both deeply helpful, nuanced advice and wildly toxic, unsourced opinions, often side by side in the same thread.
You have to be willing to navigate the messiness to find the value.
Precisely. And that structural choice to prioritize honesty and pseudonymity means Reddit is fundamentally not optimized for brand safety or for catering to the influencer economy.
Yeah.
Brands want predictability. They want control over the context of their ads.
Which you just can't get on Reddit.
Reddit's democratic and often volatile nature makes that impossible, which only feeds the financial misunderstanding of the platform.
And what's the second principle?
The second principle is community governance. Now, this is probably the most confusing aspect for users who are accustomed to top-down corporate control. People are used to Meta or TikTok deciding what content is acceptable globally and enforcing rules from their headquarters.
One algorithm to rule them all.
Exactly. On Reddit, each subreddit is moderated by volunteer citizens, not paid employees, who enforce self-made rules and police their own constitution.
So the community itself creates the constitution, enforces the laws, and votes on what content gets prioritized through upvotes and downvotes. I mean, it sounds wonderfully democratic in theory, but as we've already established, raw democracy is inherently messy in practice.
It is raw. It's imperfect. It's constantly evolving, often through these huge internal conflicts and large-scale community votes, or even protests against the platform administrators.
Right, like the API protests.
Exactly. But as the sources note, the platform fundamentally becomes whatever its people make of it. This bottom-up, decentralized nature is why it is so profoundly misunderstood by people who prioritize that algorithmic polish and centralized control that define nearly every other major platform today.
So they look at the chaos and they see failure.
They see failure while the users look at the chaos and they see a reflection of freedom and genuine, unmanaged human activity.
That organizational structure then leads us perfectly into the second dimension of the diagnosis. Why this enormous platform is so underappreciated despite its massive influence.
It really does.
Let's just quantify the scale again to remind everyone. The sources are citing over 500 million monthly active users, with one source even citing estimates of over 1 billion monthly users globally. That is a staggering scale, yet it lacks the cultural reverence of its peers.
The lack of reverence. It stems directly from its refusal to prioritize spectacle over substance. And this is not an accident. It's a deliberate aesthetic and structural choice. I mean, look at other platforms. They worship the aesthetic, the dopamine burst, the instant virality, the perfection of a 15-second video.
Reddit is the polar opposite.
Completely. It's built for the opposite of that.
What Reddit rewards is radically different, and it's built for deep engagement, which by definition is slow, it's text-heavy, and it's messy. We're talking about rewarding long-form discussions, meticulously crowdsourced expertise, and detailed arguments that are corrected in real time by experts who just happen to be pseudonymous users.
It's the difference between passive entertainment and active intellectual engagement. One source describes Reddit as an unvarnished civic space where ideas can sprawl and collide.
I love that. Sprawl and collide.
If you think of Times Square, it's all flashing lights and commercial messages designed to sell you something. Reddit is more like an ancient agora, where citizens gather to talk, debate, and exchange information.
So if that's true, that exchange is inherently messy, right? How does a chaotic, text-heavy space like that manage to maintain its enormous value proposition?
It maintains value because the signal-to-noise ratio, once you find the right niche, is exceptionally high. And this leads directly into the second point of underappreciation. The fact that Reddit quietly shapes global culture, but rarely gets the credit for it.
It's the engine room of the internet that nobody ever visits.
That's a great way to put it. It functions as the internet's underground river. You rarely see its flow on the surface of the mainstream media, but it is constantly feeding the creative and informational landscape that exists above it. And we have specific, crucial examples here that really define modern digital culture.
Okay, let's start with the lighter side. Cultural currency, the sources are very clear on this. A majority of viral memes, the cultural shorthand of the internet, they start on Reddit. They get refined and battle-tested there before they ever migrate to TikTok, X, Instagram, or YouTube Shorts.
So Reddit is the cultural mint.
It's where the currency is forged before it enters circulation, absolutely.
And moving beyond humor, there's its critical role in breaking news and information dissemination. Major news stories often surface on specific subreddits hours before traditional journalists pick them up or confirm them.
The sources specifically cite the Boston Marathon bombing updates back in 2013, where real-time, crowdsourced information became the most rapid source of news.
For better and for worse in that case.
For better and for worse, there were definitely mistakes made. But the speed was undeniable. And we see it more recently with obscure scientific discoveries being identified, discussed, and analyzed by experts lurking in those specialized subreddits before official press releases even hit the wires. The speed of consensus on the platform is just unmatched.
And then there's the financial leverage we touched on earlier. Let's expand on the scale of the GameStop stock rebellion, because it's just a stunning example of underappreciated cultural power.
It really is. This wasn't just a fun market anomaly that lasted a week. The mobilization within our Wall Street bets demonstrated that a decentralized community, organized through pseudonyms and motivated by shared goals, could disrupt sophisticated global financial models.
Models designed by institutions with billions of dollars and decades of experience.
Exactly. The sheer fact that a hedge fund could face billions of dollars in losses because a group of diamond-handed strangers were pooling resources and shared analysis on a niche subreddit is monumental.
It really is.
It shows that collective knowledge and decentralized coordination, when they're fueled by genuine participation, possess a power that the established financial media entirely failed to anticipate or value.
And the scale is immense, the impact is profound, yet the financial market, particularly investors and analysts, they still struggle to correctly value the company.
Which brings us to the third point of underappreciation, the valuation puzzle. And this stems from Reddit's steadfast refusal to exploit its users. Okay, let's look at the financial lag. When Reddit went public in 2024, its valuation, while it was significant, it lagged far behind giants like Meta, Google's parent company Alphabet, and even TikTok's estimated valuation. This seems entirely counterintuitive given its user scale, its cultural leverage, and its influence over global discourse.
It is a direct consequence of its core ethos and the principles we just outlined. Reddit maintains a much more privacy-respecting ad model compared to its surveillance capitalism-driven peers.
It's not tracking your every move across the web?
Not in the same way. And it fundamentally lacks that curated, high-margin influencer culture that fuels the monetization of other platforms.
So what does that refusal actually cost them financially?
The consequence is clear across the board. Advertisers underestimate the platform because they can't track users with the same granularity that they can on Meta or Google. Investors undervalue it because it refuses to operate as a massive high-margin data farm.
And the analysts.
And the analysts, who are accustomed to valuing platforms based on user surveillance, they fail to see its cultural leverage because it doesn't fit the established template of algorithmic manipulation. Its business model prioritizes content integrity and user freedom over maximized profits.
So connecting this back to the discussion of anonymity, its integrity actually penalizes its balance sheet. It's the ultimate digital paradox.
It is.
The platform that provides some of the most genuine, high-signal human interaction is financially penalized for not turning its users into trackable data products.
Exactly. It maintains the spirit of the early web, a place of decentralized knowledge exchange, but the financial market rewards the corporate structure of Web 2.0, which is built entirely on surveillance capitalism and behavioral prediction. Reddit exists outside that model, and it's viewed skeptically as a result.
So now we can transition into the final piece of this diagnosis, Reddit as the overlooked gem. If the modern internet is this glittering bazaar of polished apps designed to capture your attention and data, Reddit is the unmarked utilitarian door leading to a vibrant speakeasy.
The speakeasy analogy is spot on. It's not advertised, the exterior is plain, and crucially, new users often bounce off it really quickly because the interface feels text-heavy and utilitarian.
There's no immediate visual polish or dopamine rush.
None at all. But those walls of text hide this extraordinary, unique, and deep well of human value.
You definitely have to know the password, or at least the specific subreddit name, to get the most value. But once you're inside, the direct connection to lived experiences is just unmatched. This is where the AMA, the Ask Me Anything platform, really comes into its own.
AMAs are phenomenal. They offer this direct, unmediated connection to the lived experiences of millions of people. And we're not talking about vetted, media-trained celebrities on a carefully controlled late-night TV show set.
No.
We're talking about real, open dialogue with everyone from astronauts and Nobel laureates to ICU nurses describing life on the pandemic front lines, or even people describing what it's like to be wrongfully convicted of a crime. It democratizes access to expertise and raw human experience on an unparalleled level.
And the real-time engagement utility of the platform is also often overlooked. The sources really emphasize the platform's crucial role during critical global events, where you have these live threads running for things like ongoing wars, specific elections, meteor showers, or rocket launches.
So it becomes a collective real-time lens on global events.
Exactly. It's crowdsourcing observations and insights faster than any traditional news outlet can possibly manage.
And then there are the practical utility communities,
Yeah.
the support and troubleshooting networks.
Yeah.
These are places people go when they have a genuine, often vulnerable need for help. We're talking about communities like Bird Oppression, which offers peer support and shared coping mechanism.
Or stop smoking.
Right, which uses communal accountability to help people quit. Yeah. Or tech support, which we mentioned, offering free, instantaneous repair guidance and long legal advice, where people can crowdsource preliminary knowledge about really complex legal issues.
These aren't just forums. These are decentralized, crowdsourced safety nets operating at a global scale. Few platforms offer the kind of direct, unmediated, cross-cultural connection found there, often during a moment of crisis or deep need.
And we have some incredibly powerful anecdotes in the source material that bring this concept of the Internet's human library to life, just transcending physical borders and professional silos.
Let's hear them.
The examples highlight this merit-based, fluid sharing of specialized knowledge. For instance, you could have a mechanic based in Ohio who is able to explain a complex engine failure diagnosis and the necessary steps for mitigation to a pilot flying a small plane in Australia.
Wow.
That is a direct, critical, cross-border exchange of professional insight facilitated instantly by pseudonymous experts who are simply driven by the desire to help or maybe just show off their knowledge.
Or another example, a lawyer from Nairobi helping someone in Toronto navigate confusing immigration paperwork simply because they specialize in Commonwealth law.
And they just happen to be online at the right time.
Exactly. Or an astrophysicist taking the time to break down the complexities of quantum entanglement for a curious 8th grader whose specific questions somehow rose to the top of a learning thread. This is the internet fulfilling its original promise of universal knowledge access, updated every single second by its users.
And this is a function that Meta or X simply cannot replicate, because they are fundamentally driven by the algorithm's distribution of engagement, not the distribution of expertise.
The algorithm only cares about clicks, not credentials.
That's it. Expertise on Reddit rises organically through rigorous peer upvotes and scrutiny,
Yeah.
validation by fellow practitioners, and detailed sourcing. Expertise on other platforms often just requires a verified badge and a polished, paid brand.
And this decentralized design, it also provides a surprising and even critical level of resilience. The sources note that when massive centralized platforms like Instagram or X go down, which happens with increasing frequency due to server load or deployment errors, where do people flock?
They go to Reddit?
They immediately flock to subreddits like Rootage or SirSedMin.
So Reddit essentially becomes the global incident response room. People aren't just complaining about the outage. They are actively trying to understand the technical why of the outage, sharing diagnostic tools and speculating on server load.
And that reliability is not an accident.
No, it is a direct product of its decentralized culture, its transparency, and the fact that its simple text-based architecture is just less prone to the kind of complex cascading failures you see in highly polished, video-heavy, centralized systems.
Which means appreciating Reddit is a choice to engage, as the sources emphasize. It is a platform you participate in, not just browse passively. You have to actively step off that algorithmic conveyor belt and choose your destination deliberately based on your own curiosity.
And for those seeking a genuine antidote to the cynicism and exhaustion of doom scrolling, the sources highlight these spectacular examples of communities dedicated entirely to curiosity and collective learning. They prove the internet doesn't have to be a miserable place.
The Right Today Learned community, or TIL, with its random facts and bite-sized revelations, offers those mind-expanding sparks that keep curiosity alive, and it's attracted over 41 million subscribers.
That's a huge number of people just wanting to learn something new.
It is, and uplifting news is noted specifically as a rare antidote to pervasive negativity, proving that good news, curated by a community that values positivity, can also thrive at scale.
And for pure intellectual rigor, you look at Rask Historians. This community provides detailed, academic-level answers from verified experts and PhDs. They ruthlessly ensure factual accuracy and deep context in a digital space that's usually dominated by quick takes and historical myths.
Or even something like Our Life Pro Tips, which offers these small, practical wisdoms that genuinely improve everyday life through crowdsourced efficiency hacks.
Reddit rewards curiosity. If you are willing to look beyond the chaotic front page, overcome that initial interface barrier, and find the specific communities tailored to your interests, the value proposition is just enormous. The human library is only effective if enough people contribute and use it.
So we need a conceptual bridge here. We've established the enormous utility and the resilience of the platform. Now, let's quantify just how many people are using these services by looking at the platform's gravitational centers, where utility meets mass appeal. We are moving into part 4. The digital megacities.
The sources refer to these massive, dominant subreddits as the platform's digital city-states. They're the largest hubs whose appeal crosses geography, culture, and age, and they really shape the global conversation. Let's look at the top 15 subreddits by subscriber count as of late 2025.
The numbers are just staggering, and they reinforce the scale we've been talking about. We need to analyze what these very largest gravitational centers tell us about collective human behavior and our attention span in 2025.
Where do we start?
The undisputed king, sitting at number 1, is Poor Funny, with approximately 67 million subscribers. It is described as Reddit's laughter engine, the global showcase of jokes, fails, and comic chaos.
Which makes sense. Humor is universal.
It is, and immediately following that is the platform that truly defines Reddit's unique function. Rask Reddit, sitting at about 57 million subscribers. This is the storytelling amphitheater for humanity's strangest questions, deepest fears, and most poignant shared experiences. It's built entirely on narrative and collective curiosity, not visual spectacle.
And the third largest is Gaming at around 47 million. The beating heart of gaming culture reviews, hardware, esports chatter. The sheer size of this community reflects just how deeply the gaming industry is integrated into internet culture globally.
It's not a niche hobby anymore.
Not by a long shot. Next is Our World News, also around 47 million, and this is highly significant. The crucial distinction here is that this community focuses intensely on global headlines and sober analysis, minus the highly partisan and often volatile environment of U.S. domestic politics.
So people are actively seeking a global perspective.
They are. This suggests a massive shared hunger for international awareness, filtered through a community that explicitly values objectivity over local partisan fighting.
And number 5. Reinforcing that collective curiosity theme is Super Day Learned, or TIL, clocking in at around 41 million subscribers.
So what do these top 5 tell us collectively?
It's fascinating. The global internet fundamentally prioritizes humor, funny, shared human experience, Rask Reddit, escapism and culture, our gaming, global awareness, Our World News, and intellectual trivia, RTIL. Curiosity, it turns out, is a very scalable commodity.
And if you look slightly further down the list, you see this massive diversity in the mid-tier giants, which reinforces that global curiosity isn't just about hard news or science. You have massive emotional support and cultural centers.
Like what?
You have music at 38 million, covering new releases and deep fan dives, and Raw, also at 38 million, which is essentially the internet's global emotional support subreddit dedicated entirely to wholesome animal content.
A necessary service.
Absolutely. And then you have the classic entertainment staples.
Yeah.
Movies at 36 million, our memes at 35 million, and our shower thoughts at 34 million. A philosophical curiosity born from quiet moments that proves people crave short-form shared insight.
And again, the presence of high-rigor content at massive scale is confirmed by science at 34 million. The sources highlight this as one of Reddit's most respected forums, prioritizing peer-reviewed insights and verified expert AMAs.
And that exists alongside the visual giants like Arpix and Verspace, showing that high-rigor content can exist at a scale that dwarfs specialized platforms if it's organized by its users.
So these communities, these digital megacities, they dominate because they offer this combination of universal appeal and community-driven conversation. They are truly self-organizing civilizations built on contribution and the meritocracy of the upvote.
But while those giants show us what the platform is at scale, the real story of cultural transformation, I think, lies in the fastest-growing communities of 2025. These are the ones that reflect the world's shifting anxieties and aspirations.
These reveal the societal voids that Reddit is currently filling.
Exactly.
We have some incredibly insightful data here on annual member gains, showing what the world is hungry for right now. The source notes that the fastest risers reveal a world hungry for connection, guidance, and a way to make sense of an ever more chaotic world.
We mentioned Rask Reddit earlier as the #2 largest community, but in terms of raw growth, it leads the pack. It's adding a stunning 7.9 million members per year.
That is a profound social signal. Despite the existence of hyper-personalized feeds and AI oracles, people are still seeking shared, collective human wisdom on a grand scale.
They are turning to this massive collective forum because often the most pressing question isn't what is the factual answer, but how do other humans feel about this experience, this conflict, or this dilemma?
And this brings us to one of the most culturally fascinating growth stories of the year. Rita, or Am I the Asshole? This subreddit added 4.2 million members this year alone, now sitting at 7 million, and this marks a massive sociological trend.
This community is fundamentally operating as a courtroom of public morality. People bring their messy, intimate, and often embarrassing human conflicts with spouses, parents, coworkers, or strangers to a jury of millions of pseudonymous strangers.
So it's not just about venting.
Not at all. The sources note that its purpose is not just to seek validation, but to facilitate communal ethics. Users seek validation, or, critically, they seek correction if they have indeed messed up. The explosive growth here suggests a massive societal need for collective judgment in an era where moral codes feel increasingly fractured and consensus is hard to find.
That is absolutely massive. It shows that in the vacuum left by traditional institutions, people are turning to the decentralized internet to define basic social morality.
Following closely behind that is Our World News, which added 3.9 million members. This confirms the observation we made earlier. In a turbulent world defined by rapid global shifts, complex conflicts, and economic uncertainty, global awareness is rapidly becoming its own survival skill. People are actively seeking out information beyond their immediate national borders.
And finally, we see the rise of these hyper-specific emotional support groups like Am I Overreacting, which added 3.3 million members, now reaching 4 million.
This is a rising social trend. People are using the community to validate their instincts in a confusing age. They're looking for affirmation that their emotional responses are rational, suggesting a wider societal need for peer validation and emotional guidance that traditional social circles or platforms are failing to provide.
What stands out across all these growth trends is the coexistence of the macro and the micro. You have global upheavals driving the growth of raw world news right next to the most intimate personal dilemmas fueling Rita and Rami overreacting.
Reddit is the only platform where these two extremes not only exist but thrive simultaneously, showing the full spectrum of human need.
And this brings us to the magic of specificity we need to explore next. The true high signal value on Reddit is often hidden in the well-moderated niche gems. Scale is impressive, but specificity is strength. Let's delve into some of these specific gems that define Reddit's utility, breaking them down by category to show the incredible depth hidden in this human library. Starting with humor and positivity. Beyond the massive furphony, you have First Festpalm, with about 8 million members, which catalogs humanity's finest "why are we like this" moments. It's a cathartic way to process collective absurdity.
And as a positive counterpoint, Frolsem Memes, with 15 million members, is a true oasis of positivity in the often cynical digital desert. Then there's Our Perfect Timing, about 2 million, which captures fate's mischievous moments through photography.
Moving into the technical and professional domains, these communities are just indispensable for practitioners. You've got technology at 15 million, which is about gadget releases, policy debates, and the ethics of innovation, a broad public look at the field.
And then more focused is programming, with 6 million members. This is a genuine coders forum for debugging, breakthroughs, and, yes, the highly philosophical and highly volatile arguments about tabs versus spaces.
The intensity of coder debates over something as minor as text formatting is truly remarkable. You mentioned tabs versus spaces, but for the non-coders listening, this isn't just a style choice. This is a moral and efficiency battleground.
It is, and the fact that they have a massive, thriving community that engages in this level of detail and rigor shows that the platform facilitates deep professional exchange, even if the stakes appear low to outsiders. And that global communal support system continues with SoarTech support, with 2 million members, functioning as a planetary help desk that truly never sleeps.
For learning, Tour Today Learned is crucial at 41 million, but also Our Damn That's Interesting at 13 million, focusing on visual curiosities. And the incredibly rigorous Rask Science, with around 25 million, known for its strict, expert-driven Q&A. If you want a factual, sourced answer to a scientific question, that's where you go to have your premise instantly challenged and corrected by experts.
The lifestyle and utility communities are also vast. Our Home Improvement, 4 million, provides crowdsourced knowledge on everything from plumbing to renovation budgeting. Our Fitness offers workout science and motivation, and Recipes at 3 million opens up global kitchens for public tasting and rigorous review.
And in the entertainment world, we find a perfect example of how small membership can signal high intellectual depth. While Our Movies is a huge mainstream hub, the niche community Our True Film, with only 415,000 members, is dedicated to deep academic-level film criticism.
So they're prioritizing quality and rigor over pure numbers.
Exactly. They are discussing structuralism and cinematography, not just box office receipts.
And finally, the future-oriented communities are essential for understanding where we're all headed. Our Futurology, 19 million, focuses on long-term civilization thinking, AI breakthroughs, and space travel. And our Environment, 2 million, provides a specialized space for climate science, activism, and policy discussions, ensuring diverse perspectives are heard.
These communities just underscore the fundamental difference between Reddit and other platforms. Reddit is designed to organize around information density and shared purpose, while others are designed to organize around social graphs and attention capture.
Which brings us to the core of our late 2025 analysis. The essential role Reddit is playing in the machine intelligence frontier. This is where the platform's speed, decentralization, and focus on expertise become critical survival tools.
They really do.
The context here, as of December 4, 2025, is critical. AI is not just evolving, it's undergoing what the sources call a phase change. Algorithms are passing bar exams, generative models like Sora are producing films approaching cinematic quality, and powerful models are running locally on consumer hardware.
The field is moving so fast that traditional media just cannot keep up with the technical breakthroughs and the philosophical challenges.
So Reddit steps in. It becomes this dynamic, intellectual bazaar, part research hub, part philosophical battleground, part support group for people who just broke their machine trying to run a massive language model.
You need a fast, decentralized network to track a technology that's changing this rapidly without the usual corporate filters.
And the platform provides exactly that through what we can call the AI constellation, this grouping of the largest and most specialized AI subreddits. These communities offer a blend of discussion, research, creativity, and existential speculation, providing a real-time snapshot of the field.
Let's just look at the sheer scale of engagement here. The explosive growth of AI has materialized directly on the platform. The community centered on large language models, our ChatGPT, has added over 3 million members in just the past year. That reflects AI's mainstream explosion into office life, schoolwork, and creative industries.
So we can group these communities by their function, starting with the biggest hubs by subscriber count.
Right. Our ChatGPT leads the pack with 11 million members since its creation in November 2022. This is the global epicenter for LLM experimentation, where users share prompts, hacks, jailbreaks, and creative use cases. It's the perfect spot for casual users and emerging prompt engineers to learn the practical limits of the technology.
Then you have the old guard, concerned with the long view. Singularity, established all the way back in January 2009, now has 3.8 million members. This community focuses intensely on exponential curves, futurism, and the existential speculation surrounding the point where machine intelligence surpasses human intelligence.
They're wrestling with the what ifs and when will it happen.
The really big questions. Following that is the corporate hub, OpenAI at 2.6 million members. This is where news, releases, demos of tools like GPT, DLLE, and Sora are discussed, often with debates focused on corporate governance and the philosophy behind closed-source innovation.
The fourth largest is artificial intelligence at 1.4 million. This one is intentionally broad, a chaotic but fascinating mix. Because it's less strictly moderated, you get this holistic range of discussions, from AGI hypotheses to startup promotion to far-out hypotheticals. And finally, rounding out the top 5 largest AI communities is Artificial at 1.2 million. This is noted as Reddit's most academically anchored AI community. It has strong moderation, high signal content, and is known for its expert AMAs and research deep dives. It balances accessibility with required rigor. It's the trusted gateway.
So these top communities, they map the entire ideological and implementation landscape, from the technical requirements to the philosophical ramifications. But some of the most specialized, high-value discussions happen in the creative and technical labs slightly further down the list.
Like in City Machine Learning, which has over 1 million members and started in 2009. This is the beating heart of ML research on Reddit. Its focus is strictly on academic papers, open source projects, genuine breakthroughs, and practitioner insights. It's a critical space for filtering out the market hype and getting down to the actual mathematics and engineering.
And we need to contrast that with the generative art communities, which have seen just explosive growth since late 2022. There is a very distinct split in focus between the major players here that is worth detailing. Absolutely. Our Stable Diffusion, with 862,000 members, is framed as Masterpiece Gallery meets a technical workshop. The key technical distinction here, as the sources note, is that Stable Diffusion is open source.
So the community is all about sharing.
It is. It's dedicated to sharing tutorials, modeling tips, fine-tuning, and integration workflows that can often be run on consumer hardware. It is highly technical and focused on the democratization of AI implementation.
Whereas Midjourney, with nearly 800,000 members, which uses a proprietary cloud-based model, focuses more on aesthetic philosophy, prompt crafting theory, and parameter optimization.
So it's more about the art, the visual aesthetic, and the philosophical implications of AI image generation, rather than just the underlying code or the technical implementation.
That distinction between open-source technical focus and proprietary aesthetic focus is essential to understanding the AI creative space.
And this brings us to the democratization and niche frontiers, the communities that truly show the future of AI outside of the large Silicon Valley labs.
We absolutely must highlight Arlocal Llama, which has over 500,000 members already. This is a vital frontier community focused entirely on democratizing AI by running large language models, Llama, Mistral, Quenon consumer hardware.
This is the community for tinkerers and privacy advocates.
Exactly. For people who want to push AI processing power beyond the centralized cloud platforms and into individual homes.
That democratization push is so vital for resilience and ethical decentralization. And the sources also point us toward the crucial high-signal niche subreddits that address the complex questions AI raises, ensuring that serious intellectual debate doesn't get lost in the noise.
For the serious researchers and thinkers focused on long-term safety, there's RAGI, with about 90,000 members. This is the home for serious AGI discourse architectures, safety frameworks, and cognitive modeling. They are wrestling with the hardest technical and philosophical challenges of building general intelligence.
And we desperately need the counterweight to the market hype, RA Ethics, with over 200,000 members. This is where the necessary debates happen on fairness, algorithmic bias, governance, safety protocols, and the massive global impact of worker displacement.
It's the conscience of the AI community.
It really is. It's constantly questioning the consequences of rapid innovation.
We also see the expansion of specific modalities. Ray Videos, with over 300,000 members, is mapping the rapidly expanding frontier of video generation, Sora, Runway, Kling, as it approaches cinematic fidelity. This is a real-time observatory for a field that barely existed just a year or two ago.
And for the purely practical user who wants immediate gains, there is Automate, with over 400,000 members, which focuses on process engineering, automation workflows, bots, scripting, and Zapier-style integrations. This is the community applying AI tools directly to streamline professional and personal processes, turning theory into efficiency.
If you look at this entire AI constellation, it succeeds because it is community-driven, decentralized, intellectually diverse, and incredibly fast-reacting. It is built perfectly for the rapid-fire pace of AI innovation, filtering noise and generating focused discussions simultaneously.
It allows for real-time discussion during major AI releases. It hosts weekly megathreads on complex research papers. It provides crowdsourced troubleshooting, and it facilitates open debate on AGI timelines without the filter of corporate marketing departments or the delay of traditional publishing.
And for the learner trying to navigate this chaotic field, the sources provide a clear roadmap that uses Reddit's specialized communities as essential guideposts.
So where do you tell someone to start?
You start with Artificial for a broad, balanced orientation. It gives you the full academically anchored picture. Then you move to RChatGPT for practical exploration and prompt engineering. If you want to get into the research trenches and engage with practitioners, you dive into machine learning.
And for structured learning, especially if you're a beginner, the sources recommend machine learning for tutorials, study plans, and career advice from those who have successfully navigated the transition. And finally, you specialize based on your passion. Generative visuals in Stable Diffusion or High Mid-Journey, ethics in RE Ethics, or philosophical futures in R Singularity and R AGI.
The final conclusion here is powerful. Reddit's AI communities function simultaneously as labs, playgrounds, observatories, town squares, and technical workshops. They collectively form a living knowledge network that is quite literally a real-time map of the future unfolding, governed by the curiosity of its users.
It's the closest thing we have to the collective consciousness of the AI world.
So we've completed our diagnosis, we've synthesized why Reddit is simultaneously so vital, so influential, and so misunderstood by the mainstream. Let's briefly review the three pillars we've covered.
First, the platform is misunderstood because it is a federation, a decentralized system of over 100,000 self-governing subreddits. Its reliance on anonymity and volunteer moderators, though messy, is a feature of its core democratic structure, not a flaw.
Second, it is underappreciated as a cultural engine because it prioritizes substance-long debates, crowdsourced expertise, and genuine honesty over algorithmic spectacle. Its influence is immense, forging memes and driving movements like the GameStop rebellion. But its principled refusal to exploit users for data means it remains financially undervalued compared to its big tech peers.
And third, it is the overlooked gem, the immense wealth of utility and human connection hidden behind that utilitarian, text-heavy interface. It's the human library, facilitating exchanges between experts across continents, hosting candid AMAs with the world's most influential and vulnerable people, and acting as a resilient, decentralized global incident response room.
Ultimately, Reddit is a refuge for genuine human interaction in an era defined by algorithmic manipulation and influencer fatigue. It's one of the last places where anonymity encourages honesty, where communities govern themselves, and where true expertise rises organically through collective scrutiny and the meritocracy of the upvote.
It rewards curiosity, not passive consumption. It is, as the source materials emphatically state, the Internet's last great public square. If you want to rediscover what the Internet once was, a place of decentralized discovery, open debate, and specialized knowledge, and what it could be, again, a community governed by its users, not its advertisers, then dive into a subreddit tailored to your deepest curiosity. Find your niche, and you will find your intellectual reward.
The true exploration is finding the value in that unmarked door leading to the vibrant speakeasy, which is unpredictable, alive, and endlessly interesting. So here's the final provocative thought for you to mull over after this dive. We noted the meteoric rise of subreddits focused on validating emotional responses, specifically Haita, which acts as a courtroom of public morality, and Ram I Overreacting, which serves as a massive emotional support group.
The astonishing growth of these communities acting as courts of public morality and emotional support centers, it raises an important question. Does the rise of this decentralized platform, which provides collective judgment and shared ethics for intimate dilemmas, reflect a broader societal need that traditional institutions or even curated corporate-controlled social networks are simply failing to fulfill?
So is Reddit filling an essential vacuum?
It suggests it is. A vacuum in human governance and connection in the 21st century by offering communal accountability and shared validation when you can't find it anywhere else.
Something to think about the next time you browse past Rask Reddit, wondering why we're all still talking to each other there. Thank you for joining us for the deep dive.